It was 3:47 a.m. in the emergency room at St. Mary's Hospital in London. The sound of alarms filled the air. A patient in his 40s, his heart had stopped for the third time in 1 hour. Dr. Johnson looked at the clock and shook his head. "We've done everything we can." But Sarah, the 32-year-old nurse, couldn't stop. Her hands were trembling as she pressed on the patient's chest, and in a moment of absolute desperation, she whispered words she hadn't spoken in 15 years. "God, if you're there, please, save him." In the next instant, the heartbeat returned on the monitor. Sarah Mitchell grew up in a traditional Christian family in the suburbs of Manchester. She went to church every Sunday with her parents, but at age 17, something changed everything. Her younger brother, David, was only 12 years old when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Sarah prayed every night, crying and begging God to heal him. She went to church daily, lit candles, read the Bible. But after 8 months of suffering, David died in her arms at the hospital. In that moment, something broke inside Sarah. She looked up at the sky and said, "There is no God. If he existed, he wouldn't have let him die." She entered university to study nursing and became a complete atheist. She only believed in science, in medicine, in what could be proven with material evidence. She worked 10 years in the emergency room, saw hundreds of cases, death and life, but for her everything was just chemistry and biology. She had a boyfriend, Mark, who was also an atheist. They would spend evenings discussing philosophy, mocking religious people. "How can intelligent people believe in fairy tales?" she would say. Her colleagues knew not to talk about religion around her. She was brilliant at her job, compassionate with patients, but God was a topic she refused to discuss. On the night of March 15, 2023, Sarah was on her usual night shift. A patient named Ahmed Hassan was brought in, a 43-year-old Egyptian man who worked as a taxi driver in London. He was suffering from a massive heart attack. The medical team started working immediately. Injections, electric shocks, all the medical protocols. But Ahmed's heart stopped once, then twice, then a third time. Dr. Johnson, who had worked in emergency for 25 years, looked at the clock. 45 minutes of CPR had passed. Medically, the brain starts dying after 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. The case was hopeless. Time of death, 3:47 a.m., the doctor said in a tired voice. But Sarah couldn't stop. There was something about Ahmed's face that reminded her of her brother David. Almost the same age, the same innocent features. She continued pressing on his chest, tears filling her eyes. And in a moment she still doesn't understand, words came out of her mouth that she hadn't planned. "God, Lord, if you're really there, if you can hear me, please, don't take him. Please, save him." The moment she finished those words, something impossible happened. Beep, beep, beep. The heart monitor showed a rhythm, a weak pulse, but it was there. Dr. Johnson froze. That's not possible." The entire team rushed back. They checked the equipment, thinking it was a malfunction. But no, Ahmed's heart was beating. His blood pressure was rising. His oxygen levels were improving. Within 10 minutes, Ahmed opened his eyes. The medical team stood in complete shock. Dr. Johnson, a man of science for 25 years, had no explanation. "I've never seen anything like this in my entire career," he whispered. Sarah stood in the corner, her hands still shaking, staring at Ahmed, who was now breathing on his own. 45 minutes of CPR. Brain death should have occurred. But here he was, not only alive, but conscious. Ahmed looked at Sarah and smiled weakly. "Thank you," he whispered in a heavy accent. Then he said something that made her freeze. "I saw a light, and I heard someone praying for me." Sarah hadn't prayed out loud. She had whispered it. There was no way he could have heard her. Sarah couldn't sleep for 3 days after that night. She kept replaying the moment in her mind. The prayer, the heartbeat, the impossible recovery. She tried to rationalize it. It was just timing. The medications finally kicked in. It was a medical anomaly. But deep inside, she knew something else had happened. 2 weeks later, Ahmed was discharged from the hospital. Neurological tests showed 0 brain damage. 0. After 45 minutes without oxygen. The medical report called it unexplained recovery. Sarah went to visit him before he left. Ahmed was sitting up, smiling, surrounded by his wife and 3 children. "You saved my life," he said to her. I just did my job," Sarah replied, uncomfortable. Ahmed looked at her with knowing eyes. "No, you prayed for me. I heard you, even though I was somewhere else." His wife, wearing a hijab, took Sarah's hand. "My husband told me what you did. We've been praying for you since that night." "Praying for me? Why?" "Because," Ahmed said softly, "Allah used you to save me. And I believe He saved me to save you." Those words haunted Sarah for weeks. Sarah started doing something she never thought she would do. She started researching religion, but not Christianity. She couldn't go back to the faith that had disappointed her. She started reading about Islam, the religion of the man whose life she had saved. She learned that Muslims believe God answers prayers, even from non-believers. She read stories of people who called on Allah in desperation and were answered. She read about Maryam, the mother of Jesus, who was honored in the Quran. She read about the Islamic perspective on suffering and death, that this life is a test, and that death is not the end, but a transition. One verse struck her deeply. "And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed, I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me." Quran 2:186. She remembered her prayer that night. "If you're there, please." And he had answered. She started watching videos of conversion stories, doctors, nurses, scientists who had become Muslim. Their stories resonated with her in a way nothing else had. 3 months after that night, Sarah did something that shocked everyone who knew her. She reached out to Ahmed and asked him about Islam. Ahmed and his wife invited Sarah to their home. They didn't pressure her, didn't preach. They just answered her questions with patience and kindness. "Why did God let my brother die?" Sarah asked, tears in her eyes. Ahmed's wife held her hand. "We don't always understand Allah's wisdom, but we believe that death is not the end. Your brother is in a better place now, and perhaps his death led you to this moment, to find the truth." For the first time in 15 years, Sarah felt peace about David's death. On June 3, 2023, in a small mosque in London, Sarah Mitchell stood before a group of Muslim women and spoke the words that changed her life forever. "Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The women embraced her, crying tears of joy. Ahmed and his family were there, witnessing the completion of the miracle that had started that night in the emergency room. Sarah chose the Islamic name Safiya, which means pure and sincere friend. Today, Safiya still works as a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. But now, she prays 5 times a day. She wears her hijab with pride, and when patients ask her about her faith, she tells them the story of the night Allah answered the prayer of an atheist nurse and changed her life forever. She reconnected with her parents, who struggled at first to understand her decision. But when they saw the peace in her eyes, the joy in her heart, they began to accept it. Her mother once said, "I haven't seen you this happy since before David died." Mark, her atheist boyfriend, left her. But she found something far greater, a community of sisters